Clarence Hopkins brought the news. He dashed across the school lawn just minutes before the afternoon bell was to ring, crying out to Stacy, who was standing with little Willie Wiggins, Mo Turner, and several other 8th grade boys beside the tree which shaded the well. He caused such a ruckus with his yelling that all the students still lingering outside were alerted that something important was up. Immediately, Sunboy, Maynard, and I left the steps of the middle grades building to join the growing circle as Little Man and Christopher John came running from the far corner of the tool shed where they had been throwing horseshoes. By the time we had pushed our way into the group, Clarence was already into his story. He had gone home for lunch and had gotten the news from his mother, who had gotten it from Mr. Silas Lanier, who had just come back from Strawberry. T.J. Avery was to go on trial next month. "You sure?" questioned Stacy. "They gonna really let him have a trial?" "That's what Mr. Lanier said," Clarence replied, between gasps to recover his breath. He had run all the way from home. "He said it's all over town. That's all the white folks talking about." Clarence breathed in deeply before he continued. "They say there ain't no need of no trial, but Mr. Jameson, he been worrying all this time to get one, and he sure enough got it." "My daddy said a trial ain't gonna do no good," remarked Mo, a quiet, gentle boy who usually had little to say in a crowd, but whose opinion was always respected. "Maybe not," agreed little Willie. "But leastways he got one. That's better'n nothing, I s'pect." Stacy frowned. "Don't know about that. They ain't gonna believe what TJ's got to say no way, so what's the use of a trial?" His words were bitter, and no one attempted to answer him as silence settled over the group. Then Stacy asked if anyone had seen TJ. "Nobody I know about," said Clarence, "'ceptin' maybe his folks and Mr. Jameson." He was silent a moment, then added, "I'd sure like to go to that trial." At first, no one commented. Then little Willie scratched his head. "You s'pose they gonna let colored folks in?" Clarence looked surprised. "I don't see why not. We got a right." "What day is it?" Stacy asked, brusquely ignoring Clarence's summation of what rights he thought we had. "The 10th, answered Clarence, unruffled. "December 10th. Mo turned to Stacy. "You gonna try to go? You go, I'll go." I looked at Stacy, curious as to what he would say, but he didn't answer. The afternoon bell began to ring and he left the circle. The rest of us watched him go. Then we were forced by the bell to disperse. Christopher John in the 3rd grade and Little Man in the 2nd slowly wandered off to the primary grades building. Sunboy, Maynard, and I crossed in silence to the middle grades building, where we went into our 5th grade classroom and wordlessly slipped into our seats. Class began and I opened my book with T.J. Avery on my mind. On a dry day, the walk home took about an hour. On wet days, what with the slipperiness of the mud road and having to scramble onto the forest bank to avoid any passing vehicle, the journey took some 15 minutes longer. Today, the weather was fine, and we arrived at the 2nd crossroads in good time. With the long shadowing arms of the Granger forest trees stretching over us, we walked the last half-mile toward home. Finally, towering alone and beacon-like, the old oak which marked the boundary of our 400 acres came into view. On the right side of the road, the forest continued. On the left it ended, leaving in its stead the massive oak and the open richness of red Mississippi farmland.